At 47 years old, Ashton Kutcher sits at a crossroads between the man he became and the boy from Iowa who once had simple dreams. Behind the carefully crafted image of Hollywood's charming golden boy lies a darker story, one filled with betrayal, infidelity, and choices that would eventually catch up with him. We know him as the goofy heartthrob from that 70s show, the prankster from Punk'd, the tech-savvy investor who made millions. But peel back those layers and you'll find something far more complicated. A pattern of relationships that ended in heartbreak, tragedy, and scandal. Women who loved him only to discover the man behind the smile wasn't who they thought he was. And at the center of it all, one relationship that Ashton himself would later recognize as the turning point. The wrong path, the choice that set everything else in motion. This is the story of how a small-town kid with everything going for him made decisions that would haunt him for decades. The women he hurt, the trust he shattered, and the moment at 47 when he finally had to face the truth about who he'd become. Because sometimes the hardest admission isn't about what others did to you, it's about what you did to yourself. From murdered girlfriends to suspicious deaths, from manipulated marriages to defending convicted rapists, Ashton's journey reveals a man who repeatedly chose the wrong path. And now, looking back from 47, he's finally admitting what everyone else already knew. She was the wrong path, but maybe the real question is whether he was ever on the right one to begin with. Christopher Ashton Kutcher wasn't supposed to be a movie star. Born February 7th, 1978 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, he grew up in a conservative Catholic family where his father worked in a factory and his mother at Procter & Gamble. His twin brother Michael was born with cerebral palsy and needed a heart transplant as a child. Young Ashton studied biochemical engineering at the University of Iowa, working night shifts at a General Mills factory to pay his bills. The plan was to find a cure for his brother's condition, but a modeling scout discovered him at a local bar in 1997. And suddenly, the kid from Iowa was walking runways for Calvin Klein. By 1998, he'd landed the role that would change everything. Michael Kelso on that 70s show. The timing couldn't have been better. The show became a massive hit, and Ashton's dopey charm made him an instant heartthrob. His first serious Hollywood relationship was with actress January Jones, who would later become famous for Mad Men. They dated for 3 years, starting in 1998, even living together in Los Angeles. But behind closed doors, a different story was unfolding. Years later, January revealed her boyfriend at the time wasn't supportive of her acting dreams. He told her she wouldn't be good at it, that she should give up. January refused to quit, and eventually the relationship crumbled in 2001. But Ashton's jealousy didn't end there. When January landed a role in Bandits opposite Bruce Willis, Ashton convinced himself something was going on between them. He obsessed over it, created conspiracy theories. January eventually had to laugh it off, telling Demi Moore years later that she had zero interest in Bruce. The pattern was already clear. Ashton's charm had a dark side, insecurity masked as concern, control disguised as care. February 21st, 2001 started as an ordinary day for Ashton Kutcher, but it would end as one of the most terrifying nights of his life. He was dating a beautiful 22-year-old fashion student named Ashley Ellerin. They'd made plans for that evening. Ashton was supposed to pick her up around 8 to take her to a Grammy party, but Ashton was running late. He called Ashley around 8:24 that night to let her know. By the time he finally decided to head over, it was after 10. When he arrived at her Hollywood Hills home, something felt off immediately. The security gate was open. He walked up to the front door and knocked. No answer. All the lights were on inside, but nobody came to the door. Ashton peered through the window, trying to figure out what was going on. That's when he saw what looked like red wine spilled on the carpet. He figured maybe Ashley had gone out with friends, maybe she got tired of waiting. He didn't want to seem desperate, so he left. He had no idea that at that very moment, Ashley Ellerin was lying dead inside that house. What he thought was spilled red wine was actually her blood. A man named Michael Gargiulo had broken into her home and stabbed her 47 times. When Ashley's roommate found her body the next morning, Ashton's world exploded. His fingerprints were on her door. He'd been one of the last people to see her alive. The police cleared him quickly, but the trauma of knowing he'd been that close to a murder scene haunted him. In 2019, nearly 2 decades later, Ashton testified at Gargiulo's trial. He had to relive that night in front of cameras. Some people never fully recover from being that close to evil, and you have to wonder how that night changed Ashton's life forever. In late 2002, Ashton Kutcher met Brittany Murphy on the set of Just Married. She was already a rising star, beloved for Clueless and 8 Mile. The chemistry between them was instant and electric. The film's director later said from the minute they met, they were inseparable, laughing constantly, looking genuinely happy. What happened on set didn't stay on set. Ashton and Brittany fell for each other hard. During the press tour, Brittany called Ashton extraordinary. Ashton told MTV that working with Brittany taught him something new every single day. They even wore rings at one point, leading to engagement rumors. For a brief moment, they seemed like Hollywood's perfect young couple. Then, just as quickly as it began, it ended. The relationship lasted only a few months after the film's release in early 2003. By June, Ashton was photographed with a new girlfriend, someone 15 years older, Demi Moore. The public was stunned. Brittany retreated from the spotlight, never speaking badly about Ashton. Fast forward to December 20th, 2009. The world woke up to devastating news. Brittany Murphy had been found dead in her Hollywood Hills home. She was only 32 years old. The official cause was pneumonia, combined with anemia and drug intoxication from over-the-counter medications. But nothing made sense. A healthy 32-year-old doesn't just die from pneumonia. The circumstances grew stranger when her husband Simon Monjack died 5 months later at age 40 in the same house under similar circumstances. Brittany's father never accepted the official story. He hired private labs that allegedly found traces of heavy metals, leading him to publicly claim his daughter was murdered. When Brittany died, Ashton tweeted his condolences, calling her a little piece of sunshine. But there was something in his voice, a weight he carried that never quite lifted. May 2003, Ashton Kutcher walked into a dinner party in Los Angeles and met Demi Moore, a Hollywood heavyweight who'd starred in Ghost and G.I. Jane. She was 40 years old, a mother of 3 daughters with ex-husband Bruce Willis. Ashton was 25, his relationship with Brittany Murphy barely in the rearview mirror. By all accounts, Ashton didn't pay much attention to Demi that first night. But a few weeks later, they crossed paths again at a play, and this time Demi wore what she called her lucky dress. It worked. They started talking, and something clicked. Demi described it as meeting somebody she'd just known. The level of emotion was disproportionate to the time they'd spent together. The relationship moved at lightning speed. By September 2005, they were married. Ashton became stepfather to Demi's 3 daughters. The age gap became tabloid fodder immediately. 15 years separated them. Critics said she was old enough to be his mother, but Ashton and Demi seemed determined to prove everyone wrong. Behind closed doors, though, cracks were forming. Demi desperately wanted to have a baby with Ashton. They suffered a miscarriage early in their relationship. Demi then went through multiple rounds of IVF treatments, enduring the physical and emotional toll. Every negative test felt like another failure. In her memoir, Demi admitted her singular focus on having a baby put unbearable weight on Ashton. She became clingy, desperate. Rumor, her eldest daughter, later said it felt like she and her sisters weren't enough anymore. Ashton, instead of being honest about his feelings, began to pull away. He started looking for escape routes, for ways to feel young again. That's when things took a turn nobody could have predicted. That's when Ashton suggested they bring third parties into their bedroom. In her explosive 2019 memoir, Inside Out, Demi revealed details that shocked the world. Ashton expressed a fantasy about bringing a third person into their bed, and Demi, desperate to be the cool wife, said yes. She wrote that she went into contortions trying to fit the mold of the woman he wanted. She put him first always, so when he expressed this fantasy, she didn't say no. They brought in third parties on multiple occasions. Demi tried to convince herself she was okay with it, but every time it happened, she felt more shame, more lost. She was drinking again too for the first time in nearly 20 years. She'd been sober since before her daughters were born, but with Ashton, she started drinking wine. She told herself he wanted somebody he could share wine with. So she compromised her sobriety, her boundaries, her sense of self. But here's where the story gets disturbing. According to Demi's memoir, Ashton later used these threesome experiences against her. When she discovered he'd been cheating when she confronted him, he had the audacity to justify it. He told her that because they'd brought third parties into their relationship, that blurred the lines. To some extent, he said, it justified what he'd done. Ashton pressured his wife into sexual situations she wasn't comfortable with, then used those same situations as an excuse for why his cheating wasn't really cheating. The logic was twisted, manipulative, textbook gaslighting. Demi knew the woman who claimed she'd been with Ashton wasn't lying. When she confronted him, he admitted it right away. But his admission came with justifications about how the lines were blurred. Mila Kunis, Ashton's current wife, later told him point-blank that he was in a hole for a good 2 years during that period. The threesomes weren't about exploration. They were about manipulation. September 24, 2011. Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore's 6th wedding anniversary. Most couples celebrate milestones with romantic dinners and renewed vows. Ashton celebrated by having sex with a 22-year-old woman named Sara Leal in a hot tub at the Hard Rock Hotel in San Diego on his anniversary. Sara Leal went public with every detail. She told Us Weekly that she and Ashton had hooked up after an all-night party. She claimed Ashton told her he and Demi were separated, which was a lie. Photos surfaced of Ashton in a hot tub with Sara and her friend. The pictures went viral instantly. But the story gets even more twisted. Years later, actor Scott Eastwood appeared on Watch What Happens Live and dropped a bombshell. He revealed that Sara Leal was actually his girlfriend at the time. Scott said point-blank that he believed this incident was the catalyst that broke Ashton and Demi up. Not only did Ashton cheat on his wife on their anniversary, but he did it with someone else's girlfriend. And Sara wasn't the only one. Demi's memoir made clear there were multiple women. When Demi confronted Ashton about Sara, he admitted it immediately, but he'd already prepared his defense. The blurred lines excuse based on their threesome experiences. On November 17, 2011, Demi released a statement announcing their separation. She wrote that as a woman, mother, and wife, there were certain values and vows she held sacred. Translation: Ashton had violated every promise. Meanwhile, Ashton released his own statement, positioning himself as the sympathetic figure. The divorce wasn't finalized until 2013. During those 2 years, one name kept coming up: Mila Kunis. Mila claimed they didn't get together until after the 2012 Golden Globes. But the timeline felt suspicious. Demi reportedly felt humiliated by how quickly Ashton moved on with someone younger. The aftermath of a divorce reveals character. For Demi Moore, the end wasn't just heartbreak. It was a reckoning with herself, with the choices she'd made, with the woman she'd become trying to please a man who couldn't be pleased. She'd compromised everything: her sobriety, her boundaries, her self-respect. After the separation, Demi largely retreated from the public eye. She focused on repairing relationships with her daughters. She went back to therapy, worked on her sobriety. It would take 8 years to finally tell her story in her 2019 memoir, Inside Out. When that book hit shelves, it was like a bomb going off. All the secrets Ashton thought would stay private came spilling out. The threesomes, the pressure, the cheating, the manipulation. And Ashton, according to reports, was furious. In a 2023 Esquire interview, 4 years after the memoir's release, Ashton finally addressed it. He admitted he was angry, said he felt blindsided. He used profanity to describe his feelings. But his anger revealed something important. He was upset about the exposure, not about the behavior that led to the exposure. He was mad she told the truth, not that the truth reflected poorly on him. He never really apologized. He threw out his catchphrase about owning your mistakes and moving forward, but there was no specific acknowledgement of harm. Mila Kunis offered her own commentary, telling him straight up that he was in a hole for a good 2 years. Meanwhile, life moved on for Ashton in ways it didn't for Demi. He and Mila had their first child in September 2014. Their son followed in 2016. Ashton's social media painted a picture of domestic bliss. The public largely sided with Demi after her book came out. People realized she hadn't trapped a younger man, he'd manipulated an older woman. The vindication came too late to save her marriage, but at least it validated her experience. If you thought Ashton's story couldn't get worse, 2023 proved otherwise. Danny Masterson, Ashton's former co-star from that 70s show, stood trial for rape. In May 2023, he was convicted of 2 counts of forcible rape for assaults in 2001 and 2003. Victims testified about how Masterson drugged and raped them. In September 2023, Masterson was sentenced to 30 years to life. But then the character letters submitted to the judge before sentencing became public. Over 50 people wrote letters asking for leniency. Among them were Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis. In his letter, Ashton called Danny a role model. He wrote that Danny is kind, courteous, hardworking. As a role model, Danny has consistently been an excellent one, Ashton wrote. These were words about a man convicted of drugging and raping 2 women. Mila wrote her own letter, calling Danny an outstanding older brother figure. Both specifically mentioned Danny's drug-free lifestyle, particularly galling given that prosecutors proved Masterson drugged his victims. When these letters became public, the backlash was immediate and savage. People couldn't believe that Ashton, who'd co-founded Thorn to fight child sex trafficking, would support a convicted rapist. The hypocrisy was staggering. The victims spoke out about their pain. Jane Doe No, too, said Ashton and Mila submitted these letters after reading all the gruesome testimony. Jane Doe No, 3 blasted Kutcher, calling him just as sick as his role model. On September 9, 2023, Ashton and Mala posted an awkward apology video. The apology rang hollow. If you truly support victims, you don't write character letters for their rapist. On September 15th, Ashton resigned as chairman of Thorn, but the resignation felt like damage control, not genuine remorse. Writing that letter wasn't an error in judgment. It was a reflection of values. Just when Ashton's reputation couldn't take more hits, another scandal emerged. Sean Diddy Combs, Ashton's longtime friend, was arrested in September 2024 on charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. By October 2024, over 120 individuals had accused Diddy of sexual assault, with 25 claiming they were minors. The allegations were horrific. Attorney Tony Busby disclosed details about violent assaults, drugging victims, forced sex acts, and recordings without consent. And Ashton had been friends with Diddy for years. In old interviews, Ashton had made comments about Diddy's parties that now seemed damning. He'd joked about having a lot he couldn't tell about what went on at Diddy's gatherings. But in light of the charges, those comments took on a sinister tone. What exactly did Ashton witness? People started connecting dots. Ashton had 2 ex-girlfriends who died under mysterious circumstances. He'd maintained close friendships with men accused or convicted of serious crimes. He'd defended a convicted rapist. The pattern wasn't subtle. To be clear, there's no evidence Ashton participated in criminal behavior, but there's a concept called complicity. If Ashton knew what Masterson was capable of and stayed friends anyway, that's complicity. If he attended Diddy's parties and saw questionable behavior but laughed it off, that's complicity. The Diddy arrest sparked social media speculation about Ashton. What kind of man remains close friends with multiple accused and convicted sex offenders? Ashton and Mila have been notably quiet since the Diddy scandal broke. Their silence speaks volumes. The most troubling aspect is the pattern of Ashton defending powerful men. At every turn, when faced with the choice between accountability and loyalty to problematic men, he chose loyalty. Thorn has had to distance itself from him. His name is now a liability. Ashton Kutcher turned 47 in February 2025, nearly half a century of life behind him. On paper, he's got everything. He's married to Mila Kunis with 2 children, living in a sustainable Beverly Hills farmhouse. His tech investments made him wealthier than acting ever did, with early stakes in Uber, Airbnb, and Spotify. His net worth is around $200 million, but wealth and family don't erase the past. At 47, Ashton has to look back at the path he took and reckon with who he became. The young man who wanted to cure his brother's illness. Seems like a different person from the Hollywood figure who wrote character letters for a rapist. The Masterson letters effectively ended his reputation as a victim's advocate. Thorn continues without him. His name went from asset to liability overnight. The Diddy scandal compounded the damage. Ashton is now associated with powerful men who abuse their positions. His silence on the Diddy charges shows he's choosing self-preservation over accountability. And then there's Demi Moore, the woman representing the wrong path. In hindsight, Demi wasn't the problem. The issue was that Ashton wasn't ready to be the partner she deserved. He wasn't mature enough to handle a woman who had standards. Demi's memoir vindicated her completely. January Jones was vindicated too. The pattern with women is clear. Ashton is attracted to strong, talented women, then tries to make them smaller so he can feel bigger. At 47, married to Mila, the question is whether he's truly changed or just gotten better at hiding his behavior. Mila knows what he's capable of. The sliding doors moments in Ashton's life are haunting. Every junction, Ashton chose the path that benefited him in the moment. At 47, he's living with those choices. There's a parallel universe where Ashton Kutcher is remembered as one of Hollywood's good guys. In that universe, he supports January Jones' career. In that universe, he arrives on time for Ashley Ellerin and maybe prevents her murder. In that universe, he commits to Brittany Murphy. Or maybe he never gets involved with women until he's mature enough to treat them as equals. But we don't live in that universe. We live in the one where Ashton's choices created a trail of pain. The women in his life paid the price for his immaturity. January Jones had to fight against his negativity. Ashley Ellerin lost her life. Brittany Murphy's relationship with him ended mysteriously, and she died young. Demi Moore spent 8 years being manipulated and betrayed, losing her sobriety. What does it say when every woman who's been close to him either dies tragically, gets betrayed, or has to publicly criticize his behavior? It says the problem isn't the women. The problem is him. Yet Ashton continues living as if none of this defines him. He posts about his kids, his tech investments. He wants people to remember him as the lovable goofball from that 70s show. Not the man who defended rapists. But memory doesn't work that way. The Masterson letters were the tipping point. You don't write a character letter calling a convicted rapist a role model unless your moral compass is broken. You don't maintain friendships with alleged sex traffickers unless you're willing to overlook harm. At 47, Ashton should be entering the wisdom years. But there's no evidence he's done that work. His resignation from Thorn wasn't accompanied by genuine apology. His response to Demi's memoir was anger at exposure. Demi's statement about values and vows she held sacred resonates powerfully now. fidelity, integrity, accountability, empathy for victims. These are values Ashton repeatedly violated. At 47, Ashton Kutcher's admission that Demi Moore was the wrong path is both revealing and incomplete. Yes, marrying Demi was a mistake, but not because of the age gap or blended family complications. It was a mistake because Ashton wasn't ready to be the partner she deserved. He wasn't mature enough to handle a woman who knew herself, who had standards, who wouldn't tolerate being diminished. The real question isn't whether Demi was the wrong path. The question is whether Ashton ever found the right one. Every relationship that ended badly, every friendship with a problematic man, every moment of betrayal, these weren't accidents. These were choices. Ashton chose to discourage January instead of supporting her. He chose to cheat on Demi. He chose to write that character letter for Masterson. He chose to maintain his friendship with Diddy. At every crossroads, Ashton chose easy over right. He chose loyalty to powerful men over accountability. He chose image management over genuine growth. At 47, he's living with a reputation shredded by his own actions. The story of Ashton Kutcher is a cautionary tale about charm without character, success without integrity. He had every advantage: looks, talent, intelligence, opportunities. He built 2 successful careers. He founded an organization to fight exploitation. On paper, he should be celebrated. But character isn't about what you accomplish. It's about how you treat people when nobody's watching. It's about who you defend when it costs you something. By those measures, Ashton failed. Some mistakes can be forgiven if you do the work of genuine accountability. Ashton hasn't shown evidence of that. His apologies have been generic, his explanations self-serving. At 47, he still hasn't learned that true strength is supporting others, not dominating them. Demi Moore's values weren't unreasonable. They were basic human decency, but they were too much for Ashton to give. That's the real tragedy, not that he failed, but that he had every opportunity to succeed and chose failure anyway.